Hey guys, thanks for tuning us in for this 13th episode of Good Questions with Cameron Dole. Special guests in this episode are James S. Murray from Impractical Jokers, Andy Bernstein, CEO of HeadCount, TV host and musician John Tesh, Robert Irvine of Restaurant Impossible, legendary rocker John Lodge of the Moody Blues, and Hollywood director David Zucker. If you would, please take the time to subscribe, drop a like, comment, feedback, and share with your friends. Our first guest is our good friend James S. Murray from Impractical Jokers, who called in to visit about his latest book, Obliteration. First off, Murr, great to visit with you, my friend.
Thanks for having me.
Now, you don't have anything going on. I mean, there's a movie and still some more writing, though, for you, right?
Yeah, we're filming Impractical Jokers dinner party every week from our homes, and that's on True TV on Thursday nights at 10 o'clock. And in the meantime, I've also been writing. So I have a new book out called Obliteration, which comes out on the 23rd, and is awesome and scary and exciting and action-packed. You're going to love it.
Now, how much has things changed, and maybe how much have you appreciated maybe a little bit of downtime, especially when working on some new writing projects?
I mean, that's been great. Having this time to kind of focus in on and write and get into deadlines for these books. That's been great. But I do miss the guys, But we're doing dinner parties has been fun, and we're excited to go back to filming Jokers real soon.
Now, what the new book Obliteration? We've talked about the previous books that you've had out. Where did this one come inspiring for you? How long was the process on the latest one?
The whole trilogy is like 16, 17 years in the making. Like I wrote the first book in 2004, but I couldn't get anyone to read it until like 2015 when HarperCollins bought the trilogy. And that's because of our fan base and how awesome our fans are. It's like a monster book meets action meets aliens. It's like super exciting and fun and thrilling. And the first book did really, really well. We hit a bunch of bestseller lists and international bestseller lists. And then the second book hit bestseller lists as well. And the third book is the culmination to the whole trilogy. You don't have to have read the first two books to understand it. And you're going to love it. It's great. It's exciting. It's a great escapist kind of summer reading.
Now, James, for you, what has been the biggest thing that you've learned, maybe whether it's about yourself or about the industry, since working on the first book, the second book, and now finalizing the trilogy? We've
been really fortunate. I realize that all of this is possible because of Jokers and because of our fan base and how loyal they are and how much they kind of support the guys and I. That's been great, but it is really cool seeing becoming friends with people that have read the book that love it, like major authors like R.L. Stine or Brad Meltzer or James Rowlands, that love the books too. And I'm like, well, okay, shoot, it's not just Jokers fans. It's actually a good book on its own right.
Now, during the times where you've had to be distant and away, is inspiration easier or harder for you to find?
Nothing's scarier than reality. So I think the inspiration is coming from every day logging on CNN.com or the site you go to. I think it's actually been good. It's also been I've been able to get some wedding planning done because I'm getting married in the fall too. So that thank God for the time, I guess.
Now, you've also been a part of the Misery Index as well, and so many other projects. How hard has it been to keep your mind straight on which project you're veering toward at the current time?
Well, we thankfully were able to film the entire season of Misery Index in January before everything shut down. So that's on the air, and it'll be on the air throughout the year. But it's not as hard anymore. It used to be pretty hard. I was like, holy shoot, how do I go from this to this to this? But now it's a little bit easier to focus in on one project.
That's awesome. And again, the culmination of the trilogy, Obliteration, is available tomorrow. And James, always want to make sure and let everybody know where to keep up with everything you've got going on as well.
You can get Obliteration on Amazon or Barnes & Noble or anywhere books are sold. For the guys and I, obviously just go to impracticaljokers.com or follow us on our social media, and you can hang out with us every Thursday night.
There you go. Well, James, always great to visit with you, man. Looking forward to spending some time and finishing off the trilogy myself. Have a great week, my friend.
You too, buddy.
For more information, you can follow him on social media at James S. Murray. Next up, had the chance to visit with the CEO of HeadCount, Andy Bernstein. We'll talk about what they're doing this year to help get more numbers out to the polls. We've got a big date ahead of us, November, and the executive director of HeadCount on the line with us this morning. And Andy Bernstein, first off, thank you so much for taking the time. Got lots of information to cover this morning.
Yeah, thank you. I'm looking forward to this.
Andy, first off, where did HeadCount start, and give us just a little bit of the backstory on HeadCount before we get into kind of what is going on leading up to November.
Sure. HeadCount is a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization that helps turn out voters largely by working with musicians and culture. And we started back in late 2003. I was living in New York City working as a reporter, nothing to do with politics. And I just had the idea. I was also a big music fan. I'd written a book about the band Fish. And I said, hey, if I can just get other Fish fans and other music fans out to vote, people go to the same shows I go to, maybe that's how I can make a positive difference. And we got it going. And we've been going now since 2004, and we've registered over 700,000 voters.
And I know that this go around, it's a very important election, no matter which side you're on. Obviously, you know the importance of this election and the importance for voter turnout. And I know you guys set lofty goals, but what are your goals for this particular election cycle?
200,000 voters registered and 1 million voters directly engaged, meaning taking some sort of action like requesting an absentee ballot, or getting information on early voting, things like that.
And this being a bipartisan undertaking, I mean, how hard is that to keep the nonpartisan stuff, if you will?
Well, I find it pretty easy, at least for me personally, because it's about being values-driven as opposed to agenda-driven. Our value is democracy, participation. So we value everybody participating, not just people who might agree with one of the musicians or something like that. Where it gets hard, I guess, is that you're surrounded by certain language, and we kind of end up living in bubbles. And you have to kind of cut through that. You have to cut through. You start to believe everything you hear from one side or another, and then you have to kind of stop and say, hey, well, this is somebody's opinion. We're going to be in the middle, and it's just going to be about voting, not about who you vote for.
And I know that especially when you come election year, I know myself personally, I distance myself from social media. So does that impact maybe the outreach? Because I know there's others like me out there as well.
Social media?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, social media has a huge impact. We work with artists like Ariana Grande, who has 200 million Instagram fans. You can follow HeadCount on social media at headcount.org. And we're always working with different musicians. We have musicians taking mask photos that say vote on them now, and you can see really cool photos coming up every day. And it's something that, social media now is a huge part of how you reach voters.
And with the next generation, we always hear about the apathy, the laziness, and to see the folks get inspired to vote and to take action because of what you guys have gotten started. I mean, how rewarding is that for you to know that another generation may get out and do the vote when they weren't originally that fired up for it in the first place?
Well, it's very rewarding, and having registered 700,000 voters over the years, all the time. We meet people who say the first time they registered to vote is with HeadCount. And we encourage people to check out our website. Obviously, we're not out in as many in-person events right now. But if people go to our website, headcount.org, they can register to vote. They can request an absentee ballot. They can get information on how to fill an absentee ballot out correctly so your vote actually counts. And that's a big deal because thousands and thousands of absentee ballots are rejected because they arrive late or aren't filled out correctly. So we have information on that. We also have information on volunteering. We're doing a big texting campaign where people can sign up for volunteer sessions and text people to remind them to vote. We provide you everything you need as long as you have a computer. You don't even need to use your phone. And you can get more information about that and sign up as a volunteer on headcount.org as well.
And Andy, what is maybe the biggest challenge that you guys have faced in 2020 due to COVID or whatever circumstances that maybe you guys have learned and implemented that maybe is going to make things a little easier in the future for you?
Well, the big challenge is clearly that because of COVID, it eliminated in-person abilities both to register voters and ultimately for some people to vote. So when it came to registering voters, when the pandemic hit, we were out on the road with Billie Eilish, Virgil Simpson, and the Lumineers, and many other artists, and it obviously all came to a screeching halt. So that was a big change for us. But we were able to pivot toward a fully virtual and digital approach. We started doing things called Vote Ready contests, where you could enter to win tickets or an experience by checking your voter registration status. We've now done over 50 of these, including with Coachella, including we work with a big promoter that I think has some festivals in Oklahoma called Danny Wimmer Presents, and I'm going to call up the website for that in a second. So there's lots and lots of ways to engage that don't involve being in person, including voting. Yeah, if you go to headcount.org/WP for Danny Wimmer Presents, you can win some tickets to festivals next year just by checking your registration status, and that includes some in Oklahoma.
All right, and again, a big day coming in November. Make sure you get out there and vote. And again, Andy, I want to make sure and give folks more information where they can find social media, website, and if they'd like to volunteer, like you mentioned earlier.
Yeah, our social media is at headcount.org on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And our website is headcount.org. And you can volunteer there to join our texting program and text people from around the country to remind them to vote. And you can also register to vote there. You can request your absentee ballot and get information, most importantly, on how to make your vote count. We recommend that the best way to vote is to do early voting in person if you feel safe doing it. And that is going to be the number one way that anybody should vote.
All right. Again, Executive Director of HeadCount, Andy Bernstein, on the line with us this morning. Andy, appreciate the work that you're doing and also the time this morning. And hopefully you guys have a great rest of your week.
All right. Thank you.
For more information, visit headcount.org or find them on socials at headcount.org. Up next is TV host and musician John Tesh, who released a memoir, Relentless, in February. We spoke on the day of that release. First off, John, thank you so much for your time.
Oh, it's my pleasure to talk to you. Thanks, Cameron.
Now, John, the new memoir that is out today now, Relentless, Unleashing a Life of Purpose, Grit, and Faith. And John, when did this book become a process for you in the first place?
It's the longest process I've been through in my life. It was generated, the idea was generated by something that happened to me in 2015, which was I had a terminal cancer diagnosis, and we can talk about how that, I'm still alive, so we can talk about how that turned out, and that's in the book. But HarperCollins came to me and said, when they found out that there was a unique way using scripture and manifestation and a certain different type of prayer, when I got healed and sort of baffled everybody, they said, we'd like you to write a book about it. Is there anything else that's happened in your life that would be interesting? I said, well, let me check it off. And, there's stuff that I haven't ever talked about. I've been on stage, touring and stuff for 25 years and done a lot of radio and television. But when I was 19 and a half years old, I was actually in the textile chemistry program at NC State. My dad was an underwear maven for Hanes, and he wanted me to follow in his footsteps. So he enrolled me early decision at NC State because he said that I needed something other than music, because I really enjoyed music as a kid and wanted to go to a music school, but he said I would probably starve to death, and he was right, I think, or thought he was right. And so I went there, and I lasted a few semesters, and I realized I had to change my major, and without telling my dad, which I don't recommend. And so I went around to all my professors with the drop ad card. Remember that thing? Mm-hmm. And so my statistics professor, however, balked because he said we were past the drop ad date. He wouldn't sign it. And I pleaded with him, and he said no. And so I went back to the fraternity house, and I don't know. I had a couple of conversations with some fraternity brothers, and one of them suggested that I do what he always does, to drop a course, and that is just sign the professor's name to the card. I did that, and every time I tell this story on stage, it's like you can hear woo. And what happened was he checked, and my dad got a letter from the chancellor at NC State saying that I had not only broken the honor code, but I was going to be suspended indefinitely and given an F for the course. And then he lowered he was a World War II veteran, tough guy, honorable man, and he said, you've shamed our family, you're no longer welcome in my house. Wow. And threw me out of the house, and I ended up in a pup tent in a park for almost 6 months, breaking concrete with a shovel, working on a construction crew, and also pumping gas at College Esso. That's how long ago this was. It was in 1973. And the only way I got out of there was I had a friend of mine let me into the campus radio station. I was already a criminal, so I sort of broke into that place. and I made a fake demo tape. And the demo tape ended up, I took it to a radio station in Raleigh. It was the Rick D station. I took it to the news director, and he listened to it, and he said, did you make all the noises on this tape? Because it was one of those things where, I did like the helicopter traffic report by beating my chest, and I held my nose, and this is Maurice Gindey in Cairo reporting on Henry Kissinger. This is Henry Kissinger, And he was laughing, and he said, if you want a job that badly, I'll give you the job on Sunday mornings playing the religious tapes from 4 a.m. to 7 a.m. And you know what happens in this business? You get a toe in the door, and then somebody leaves. And 36 months, this is crazy, 36 months after I was in that tent, I always thought of it in my head as I was maybe as 5 or 10 years or something. But just about 3 years after that, and 5 jobs later, I was anchoring the news in New York City as a correspondent for CBS News in the same building as Walter Cronkite. And until you connect the dots in your life, right, and look back and you say, how did that happen? And there was a process that I was using that I write about in the book.
And you talk about living a life of purpose, and like you said, you've been through the lows, you've been through the highs, and what is it that kept you going? Like you talked about, having to live in the tent, and what made you know that there was something better in your life?
I actually didn't know there was something better. I just didn't have a choice, And I tell a story in the book about Hernan Cortez, an explorer back in the day who, in order to get his troops to follow him, because he was getting ready to mutiny, he actually had them burn the ships so that they didn't have any way to go home. And I had burned my ships. My dad kicked me out. My girlfriend broke up with me because I shamed her as well, and the university broke up with me. I was a two-sport walk-on athlete at NC State, and I got kicked off of both of those teams, and so I didn't even have enough money to get drunk and feel sorry for myself. So it was just. And I had been it's been sort of not a golden child, but certainly a middle-class family on Long Island, and I was pretty spoiled. So it made a man out of me. And if my dad and my statistics professor both had not acted honorably, I don't know what I'd probably be making underwear or something right now, But yeah, so I really didn't have I just didn't have a choice, and that's what happened at the end of our, going through all the surgery and chemo. And my cancer kept coming back. I didn't have a choice but to believe that the scriptures that came from God, you'll have what you say, speak to your mountain, death and life are in the power of the tongue. Those powerful healing scriptures. Once my wife and I both understood those and what they really meant, and I didn't have a choice because I wasn't going to take another treatment, then I was healed.
And is it hard for you to bring that story out? I mean, it seems like Christianity and belief and faith seems not on the highest of plateaus of thought for people right now.
It's a really good point, and not everybody even always bringing up that point like you did, but. Yeah, the thing is, I'm not preaching. I'm just giving testimony. So it is and I've tried to preach from the stage, and it just doesn't work. But giving testimony, people are interested in that, especially if you get healed from something. And a lot of churches will not preach healing because if it doesn't work for one person or whatever, all of a sudden everybody just leaves the church. So when Jesus went to the cross, he took I can show you many scriptures. He took our Isaiah 53 for one. He took our sins, but also took our sicknesses, our griefs and sorrows. And if you go to Africa, they understand that because they don't have a choice of a doctor. They don't have a chance they don't really go to church, a lot of folks. There's no doctrine there. But all they do is they believe the word of God. And so that's the only reason I wrote this book, really. I mean, the other stories have come along for the ride, but there's a lot of hope in this book for people who can get well and stay well. Just understanding how important what comes out of their mouth is. You can speak your future into existence with good or bad, with your words.
And again, the book available now, Relentless, Unleashing a Life of Purpose, Grit, and Faith. John, always want to make sure and let folks know where they can keep up with everything you've got going social media-wise as well, and picking up the book.
Facebook.com/John Tesh is where we post all our videos. And then I'm actually reuniting with Mary Hart tonight, and she's interviewing me about the book. So when you watch the show today, it's going to look like it was 1984.
That's awesome. Well, John, it's been great to visit with you this morning. Appreciate your time, and looking forward to delving into the book myself.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
For more information, visit johntesh.com. Next up, I had the chance to visit with Robert Irvine from Restaurant Impossible. We visited as the latest season premiered. Robert visits about the season, plus some tips for restaurants during the pandemic. Always good to visit with Food Network's from Restaurant Impossible host Robert Irvine with us this morning. And Robert, happy Wednesday to you.
Happy Wednesday is like a happy new week.
That's right.
I know they all at the moment, but it's all good. It's good, and thanks for having me.
Now, there's all kinds of new stuff coming up just around the bend, including coming up on Thursday night, Food Network's Restaurant Impossible and quarantine specials. And Robert, tell us just a little bit about the quarantine specials that are going to be showing on Thursday.
Well, the quarantine specials are really good. It's been me checking in on what the restaurants that I've done have already been up to and how they've gone through this pandemic with my guidance is pretty cool. And then the new season, Restaurant Impossible, 9 p.m. on Food Network, 9 p.m. Eastern, is a really amazing show. If you're used to Restaurant Impossible, there's a little feistiness sometimes. But boy, this one, the restaurant's called Lloyd Have Mercy, and it is a preacher from Orlando that drives to Titusville, the space city, I would call it, and has a restaurant there that he built for his family or bought for his family to get back together. Let's just say the preacher becomes the Tasmanian devil in about 23 minutes into the episode. And it is probably the feistiest show we've ever had. Lots of crying, lots of omissions of things that have been done that shouldn't have been done. And I don't want to spoil that too much for you. But at the end, I think I'm giving a sermon. Oh, there we go.
Probably didn't.
I will tell you, it's one of the toughest shows I've done, but one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet.
And sometimes you have to go through those rocky times to build relations and for you to butt heads with the restaurant owners that you have to deal with, and then to see the overall finished product. I mean, how much pride do you take in each and every outcome that you see?
Well, it's funny when we do the shows and you give the restaurant back at the end, and you're very proud of the team and the journey the person's come on. But more so in the pandemic now, and I've seen, in the last 8 or 9 weeks where I revisit and I Zoom call and, you'll see on TV this week, I'm more proud of what these folks have been continuing to do and serving their communities whilst they're going through their own problems, service above self. And I've always talked about that in the shows, and I've always talked about that when we go through, you do the right things and you'll always be taken care of, as it were. And the folks that are doing this, and we've done 220 plus restaurants, and they're all doing service above self. They're serving the communities whilst losing money and whilst having a hard time themselves. They're doing the right thing, and that makes me like a proud papa that they're listening. They will come out of this. They will get through this because I will make sure that I help every one of them and those that are not part of the Restaurant Impossible family yet. But there are a lot out there that need help, and we will help them.
Now, as the pandemic has had such an impact on everybody, including the restaurant industry, are there things that can be done behind the scenes, maybe during these slow times, to maybe improve once we reopen, if you will?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I would say to the folks that have these restaurants, take a look at what you have. Go out your front door and walk in with a fresh set of eyes. And it may be, a new tabletop. It may be a lick of paint. It may be a door. Maybe nothing. But when we come back into these restaurants, we have to have consumer confidence. It's got to look slightly different. We've had 9 weeks off or 10 weeks, whatever the time is. And we want to walk into a restaurant that we know has been taken care of. Did we varnish the bar? Did we clean the bar? We clean the kitchens. And we want to make sure that we're going into somewhere that is safe. And that's the biggest issue right now is consumer confidence and employee confidence. The employees want to work in somewhere that's safe, not only wearing masks and gloves, and they want to go into a place that has been deep cleaned, that they know is safe to go to. There are procedures in place, not only in the front of the house, but the back of the house, to make sure that the food is safe for the guests, the working environment is good for the employees. And we should be looking at that now while there's downtime. And I've got a lot of friends of mine, again, the restaurant in Boswell family, that have gone in, that have started to, even if I've been there, a year ago, they're there just touching up, licking up paints and making sure the tabletops are good, the chairs are clean. We want to walk in and we want to see something that's comfortable, similar to what we know, but looks different, so we know we've not been sitting down doing nothing. And it does not have to cost a lot of money to do that.
That's right. And Robert, what have you been doing in these quote unquote slow times to keep yourself busy as well?
Well, there is no slow time for me. Even though I've been sort of penned up at home in Florida. We have 11 companies. We feed the military around the world with our food products. We have a food company. We have a distillery. Our distillery went from making vodka to doing sanitizer and giving that away in New Jersey, Delaware, and Pennsylvania. We're still obviously distilling liquor and selling that. We're giving away our protein bar company out of Pittsburgh and New Jersey. We put out a thing and said, hey, listen, if you can nominate a healthcare worker or a hospital, we'll send them care packages. That went out one day. We had 12,000 receipts the next day of people that thought some people have it. We've done 27,000 to date. Yes, we're giving protein bars and packages and snacks to the hospitals, frontline workers, the firefighters, police officers, and our military that are coming back from theater. So when you come from Afghanistan and Syria, you have a 2-week quarantine. So I've been FaceTiming those when they come back and giving those boxes. And our foundation has been doing $300 gift cards for our military and firefighters for shopping and money and things like that, as well as taking care of firefighters and first responders in their mental health. So yes, it never stops. Unfortunately, there's so many things that we can be doing, and I see an awful lot of greatness out there from folks that have stepped up and have done the right things, and it's not money, but helping. I listened to a news report the other day it made me cry, I will tell you, of an attorney that was a registered nurse that left his family and went up to New York, spent 5 weeks doing stuff for COVID-19 in a hospital, and just rejoined his family. And we're finding heroes in this COVID-19 that we never thought. The truck drivers, the stump farmers, the stockers in the shelf stockers, the fabricators of chicken and beef and pork, all these folks that we take for granted, and I hope we don't ever lose the satisfaction of saying thank you to these folks every day when we're out of this. And it will take a little to get out of it, but we are on the way.
That's right. And again, the Restaurant Impossible and Quarantine Specials premiering Thursday evening, 9 Eastern, 8 local time on Food Network. And Robert, always great to visit with you, sir. Stay busy in your time away, and look forward to talking again real soon.
Take care. Be healthy, and we'll catch up soon.
For more information, you can find him on all social media at Robert Irvine. Our next guest is legendary rocker John Lodge of the Moody Blues. John released a song a couple months back called In These Crazy Times, Isolation Mix. Legendary rock musician, and actually has a new single released, the Moody Blues. John Lodge with us this morning. And first off, John, always good to visit with you, sir.
Thank you, Cameron. Nice to be with you again.
Now tell our listeners a little bit where the song In These Crazy Times, how the Isolation Mix first came to you.
Yeah, well, I just finished my tour in America, and up in Boston on March the 9th. And I came down to Florida to see my son and grandson, and my wife was down here. And we're going to have a couple of weeks holiday before we went back to the UK, because I had some concerts in the UK, and I was doing the 50-year anniversary of the Isle of Wight. So it was just a little holiday down here for a couple of weeks. But unfortunately, as everyone knows, 4 days later, lockdown. And suddenly, it was just my wife and I. Couldn't see anyone. Didn't see my family, didn't see anyone at all. And so I was just playing my guitar every day and my bass. And I thought, well, I should really try and be creative in this period of time, so I didn't know how long it was going to be. And I write a lot of my demos on GarageBand on my computer, but I haven't really investigated it that much. So, but I thought, well, I better start writing. And I wrote the song in these crazy times, and I recorded on GarageBand, and I investigated GarageBand, how to really understand it. I'm not an IT guy. I don't like recording. I want someone else to do for me. I like creating. I like creating and performing. But there you go. I've recorded this song, and I needed some backing vocals. So I said to my wife, you've never done this before, but I need a backing vocalist, and you're it. And so I taught her the song, and she recorded it, and I was amazed. It was just the balance of the two voices was just perfect for the song. And then my son plays guitar as a hobby. He's a Dave Gilmour fan, and I sent him the files and said, come on, you've got to record with your dad for the first time. And so we did. He recorded. He sent me the files back with his guitar parts, and it blew me away. And I thought, I'm onto something here. It's great. And then I've been on tour with Yes last year, and John Davidson, the singer, and joins me on stage for my solo concerts. So I said, John, would you do the backing vocals as well? And he did. So I sent him the files, and they all came back to me. And suddenly I got a record. All I needed to do now was mix it as a record, and I sent that to my front house engineer. I said, Ray, mix this like we're on the road. And he mixed it and sent it back. We did a few alterations, and there I had a song, In These Crazy Times.
Now, John, in these crazy times, obviously you've had to learn to do things a little bit differently. But what is your first activity when things get reopened? If whatever the new normal is, what's the thing you look forward to the most?
I don't know. It's really strange because I don't know what the new normal is going to be. What I'm looking forward to, of course, is getting back on the road with my band and performing my music, because not just for me but for my band. I mean, they've done nothing for. It's probably going to be a year, before we do anything, and it's such a shame because you've got a little nice knit community of people, not just my band but the guys that come on the road with me. We all talk about what we're going to do for the future. How we're going to do it. And but that's from a personal point of view, but from a music point of view, a profession. But I think a new normal would be able to just go out and interact with people and meet people again, because that's one thing you're not doing at the moment. You may see someone but you don't have any intimate conversation. You're hiding behind a mask, and you're social distancing, and that harmonic is missing, and we need to get that back. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to make new music, because music for me is the inspiration that's going to get us all out of this. It really is.
That's right. And again, the Isolation Mix in these crazy times, you can pick that up on the website, johnlodge.com, and also other places online. And John, it is always a privilege to have the chance to visit with you. And again, happy belated birthday, my friend.
Cameron, thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
And John, have a great rest of your week, sir.
Thank you. Stay safe.
For more information about his tour dates, merch, and music, visit johnlodge.com. Our final guest is Hollywood director David Zucker, who talks about the 40th anniversary of the film Airplane and the special re-release in theaters to coincide with the anniversary. Like I mentioned to him before we came on the air, been a fan for many years, so many movies that have touched so many lives. Hollywood director David Zucker on the line with us this morning. And first off, David, thank you so much for your time.
Oh, sure. I'm glad to do it. Anytime I can, spend 5 minutes talking about myself is great for me.
There you go. And well, we're going to spend some time. And David, first off, how hard is it to believe that it's been 40 years since the release of Airplane? First off.
Oh yeah, the time goes fast, and suddenly it's I'm just glad they're still talking about it, which is something in itself. But I mean, at the time we did it, we were just trying to convince a studio to back it. We were saying, "Is this going to become a hit? This is going to be a big hit." And so when it was a hit, we said, "Okay, see, it was a hit." We were right, but we had no way of predicting that it would last this long. So 40 years later, we're still talking about it, and it's it's been high up on lists of the top comedies of all time, which has really been nice. And it's been great to show my kids. So when they were old enough to see it.
What do you think it is about Airplane that the humor is even relevant today?
Well, it's a spoof on old movie styles, and there aren't too many cultural, contemporary cultural references, so it doesn't seem dated. And the other thing, it's a spoof on specifically on a 1957 black and white movie called 0 Hour. I don't know if you've ever heard of that.
Yeah, we were actually talking about that, and for you to, I know it kind of goes. I never realized this until I believe it was last Thursday. Somebody actually it brought that to my attention. And what was it hard for you to make a distinction, or to make sure that there was a distinction between the two? Obviously, other than the humor.
No, I mean we actually loved these old black and white melodramas because we thought they were unintentionally funny, and we would actually dub in our own voices to get some laughs out of it, and then show it in our theater, which we had at the time on Pico Boulevard in L.A. called Kentucky Fried Theater. And then when we saw 0 Hour, which, by the way, you can look up on YouTube, put in 0 Hour Airplane, and people have made a scene-for-scene comparison. And it's we took the exact plot from 0 Hour. But I think what we did that was really different was that when we made the movie, we cast not comedians, but just the serious actors, so it would really appear to be like 0 Hour, that old melodrama. And that's why, it's really why the comedy works, and why it works 40 years later, because the style of comedians changes, very, very quickly. And this has remained funny, I think, because it's just it doesn't have comedians in it. It's, Robert Stack, Leslie Nielsen, Peter Graves, and Lloyd Bridges. And that's why a dumb line like "Don't Call Me Shirley" is funny, coming from Leslie Nielsen rather than Jim Carrey, for example. Jim Carrey's a brilliant comic, but it just works better in this style to keep the actors dead serious. And that was also a tough thing to get the movie made, because we were going to studios with this concept saying we're going to do a comedy, but there's going to be no comedians in it. And for most of the studios, they just looked at us and said, "What?" And so we got turned down for years. And finally, one executive at Paramount, Michael Eisner, heard about the script, loved the concept, and liked the script enough to hire us to do it, to back it, not only to do the movie, but to let us direct it. And so he deserves a lot of credit for, probably being crazy enough to take a chance on us.
And like we mentioned, the 40th anniversary, and to celebrate, you guys are re-releasing this, and I want to make sure and let our listeners know where they can find out more information. I know it is available in some theaters across the country as well.
Yes, you can go to fathom.com to see where it's playing. Excuse me, on theaters. It's playing, and it's also playing on Apple TV, and also if you can't get Apple TV, it's playing on Netflix.
There's no reason to miss it. The 40th anniversary of Airplane. And again, Director David Zucker, it has been a true privilege. You've made me laugh so many times over the years. Hope you have a great rest of your week, and maybe we can catch up again real soon, my friend.
I'd love to, yeah. I'm going to have a great week as long as it cools off here a little bit.
There you go. David, thanks for your time,
all right,
sir.
Thank you.
You can keep up with him on social media at the David Zucker. Thanks again for joining us for this episode of Good Questions with Cameron Dole. If you ever have a comment, question, or anything else you'd like to know, find me on Instagram at AKA Cameron, Twitter, Cameron Dole, and on my Facebook page at Cameron Dole Altus. If you would like to help out in the funding for this podcast, feel free to click the support tab and follow the instructions. We'll see you for episode 14 real soon.